You're listening to the Cruise Tips TV Unplugged podcast. We love talking about Alaska here on the podcast, and today we're going to be sharing some of the shore excursions we did on our cruise last week to Alaska on Discovery Princess. Welcome to Cruise Tips TV Unplugged. I'm your host, Sherry, and we invite you to join our cruise-loving family as we travel the world creating cruise videos and vlogs. In this podcast, we talk tips, tactics, and strategies to help you make every cruise your dream cruise.
All right, so let's do the teaser. What excursions did we do? Real quick, I mean, just so people know what to expect.
We did a zipline adventure, we did a seaplane to a beautiful lodge and saw a bear, and we went to the Yukon.
We did all that?
We did all that.
That's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We did some amazing excursions, and I think it's very challenging to find excursions in Alaska. So I'm excited to talk about it, and I'm even going to share, wait for it, we're going to share price points on this stuff too, because I feel like it's one of those things where you're like, well, okay, that's great that you did that, but how much does this cost? So we're going to talk about that for the Zipline Adventure Park and for the Yukon Adventure and for the one that we did through Princess, the float plane, the seaplane, I guess you could call it. I'll share the prices on everything too. It should be fun.
Well, spoiler alert, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but I've seen worse. I mean, we have seen excursions that are like $700 a person, and none of these fall into that category. So I feel like they're more moderate excursions, but Alaska, it's pricey. It's easy to spend more on the excursions than it is on the actual cruise itself. And I think a lot of people do that. Let's just say you book a cruise and it's $3,500 for a balcony for two people. You could easily spend $4,000 on excursions for two people if you went to four ports.
I mean, just float plane, maybe helicopter tour.
Yeah. Bucket list, like dog sledding.
Yeah.
Easy. So we're going to do a more comprehensive review of the cruise, but I know that a lot of people are getting ready to go up to Alaska for the summer. So we wanted to give you some practical information and just talk a little bit about some fun things that you might want to do in Alaska. I think these were all things that were brand new to us. We had never done any of them. We'd never ziplined in Alaska. We'd never taken a seaplane. In fact, I was really afraid to do that. And we'd never done the Yukon. We'd only done the White Pass Rail in Skagway. So doing a little bus up to the Yukon was a totally different experience too.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think Alaska is the most expensive place to do excursions?
Yeah. Actually, I do. I mean, even objectively thinking about it, the only place I can think that I've ever tried to book something that even comes close is Japan. I think Japan gets pretty close. You're not going to find very many things, like not even a walking tour under $129 a day. And Alaska is similar, and maybe even has some more super high ticket kinds of excursions. So yeah, I think it's probably up there with some of the most. And there's probably a ton of reasons for that. We've talked about this before, but liability, insurance, and also hiring people in Alaska seasonally to run these tours. But another thing we've learned is that, it's over the years we've learned it's just super expensive to live in Alaska. So all these tour guides who are living up there, they're paying $9 for a gallon of milk, right? Like all of these prices are going to be passed along to the consumer in some way, I think, is probably the moral of the story.
Well, I think, not to get too deep in the weeds here, but a lot of that has to do with getting the resources to Alaska. So if it's not something, natural here,
right,
there's going to be a premium to get it up here.
Yeah, like there's no roads. The only way to get food and supplies here is, generally speaking, unless you live maybe in Skagway, where the Yukon, the Klondike Highway connects you to Canada. Other than that, a lot of these places are completely landlocked, I guess you could say. Or the only way you're going to get there is by airplane or sea. And that's how your groceries have to get there as well.
Anyway, all right. So let's roll into it.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. So we've had 3 ports: Ketchikan, Juneau, and Skagway. I want to start with Ketchikan, where we went ziplining. Okay, let's do it. So our first excursion was through Shore Excursions Group. I've got some videos up on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram if you want to see what this one is like. If you're a visual learner and you're like, okay, this is all great, thanks for explaining to me, but I want to see it, definitely go watch this one because it was a fun one. This tour cost, let me check for you. Okay, it's $199 per person if you book early. So this is a zipline excursion. This is in Ketchikan, Alaska.
Oh, wait, what do you mean early, though?
Meaning, like, it says here, save $40. I'm looking at the Shore Excursions website, and I think it's like, actually, I don't know if it's an early booking thing or just booking online and maybe not the same day, but let's just say it's $199 a person. They have it like, they have like the price of $239 and then it's scratched out and it says $199 next to it. I don't really know what that means. So
don't wait until the night before.
Yeah, probably not. Which honestly, for all Alaska excursions, huge mistake.
If you wait till the night before, then you're not going on that excursion.
There's probably not going to be availability. Yeah. Things sell out. They're expensive. They're popular, and it can be frustrating. But yeah, so for $199 per person, you are going to get to go and experience about 7 different lines. And the tour lasted, I'm going to go with probably about 2.5 hours. So the nice thing about this tour too is that they have alternatives to super early morning departures. Like we chose to do the tour at I think it was like 11 a.m., which was really nice. They have like 7:30, 9:15, 11, 12:30, 2:30. So if you're not a super early morning person, this tour is amazing. It's actually one of my pet peeves that if you book a tour in Alaska, a lot of them leave at like 7:30. You're like, meet in the theater at 7:30. And it's exhausting because first of all, your chances are you're coming from a different time zone. I mean, really, there's very few people who are in the Alaska time zone, which is an hour behind Pacific time. So you're probably going to want to sleep a little bit in the morning. I love that this one has lots of options. And oh my gosh, this is a fun one. So the way that it worked is we walked off of the cruise ship. We met with our driver, who was really close to the cruise ship, by the way, kind of in the main area down by what they call the Rock in Ketchikan. We met by the Rock right in the center, like before you get to town.
The Rock is like a statue.
Yeah. And then we got in this little bus, doesn't hold many people, maybe 12 people, like small, right? So this is guaranteed to be a more intimate tour. And we went on like a 20-minute drive down to Knudsen Cove. So this is like a waterfront property, but it's all along the Tongass National Forest. And for about 2 hours, we got geared up and we buzzed through the canopies, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, we went from platform to platform, but there were some things that really stood out about this tour that I want to talk about. And one of the things is that this tour is really geared towards people who maybe haven't been ziplining before. Now, that's not to say that if you've been ziplining before that it won't be a thrill or a rush, because it really is. But the first time we went ziplining, we went on some kind of wild and crazy course in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and we had to brake. We had to hand brake, which means you put on a glove.
We had the big gloves.
We had a glove. It looks like you're going to have like what are those falcons that land on your hand?
Yeah, exactly.
You look like you're wearing a falconer's glove. And when it comes time to stop at the end, you're responsible for putting your hand on a wire at high speeds and slowing yourselves down. We just thought that was a normal thing. But we came across this tour in Alaska. It turns out hand braking is not required for all excursions, and it really makes for a more relaxing experience. There was a woman with us who I'm going to guess she was at least 70. She was by herself, first time ziplining. She rocked it like a hurricane, man. She was like up in there, no struggling, and she seemed to have a great time. So 7 different zip lines. It's not super strenuous either. It's a gentle walk with some stairs required, but at the same time, you're not hiking 45 minutes and sweating. And, you know, we've been on way more strenuous types of tours before. This was a wonderful first time zipline experience. It would also be exceptional for kids. I'm going to let you guys know that the minimum weight for this tour is 70 pounds and the maximum weight for the tour is 285 pounds. So if you've got a kidlet that is over 70 pounds, they'll be okay. We've been in situations before with Junior where he didn't weigh 70 pounds yet, and he couldn't go ziplining, even though he was tall enough. So I feel like this is important information to share with you all. But the total time we were gone away from the ship was probably like 3.5 hours. Tour itself was about 2 hours. The guides were funny. They were engaging. They were also kind of nurturing if you were not sure what was going on. You know, there's a lot of harnesses and carabiners and straps and intimidating stuff when you zip line because safety is super important. And there's always like a double, what's the best way to put this? There's always a
two clips.
Two clips, which is like
safety clip.
Basically
a backup clip.
Yeah.
And you're always clipped at some point. So as they're clipping to a new area, you're still kind of clipped to the old one.
Or a tree or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just for safety. But all of that, they handle all that. So you really don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
The getting ready process is less than 5 minutes. Super easy. You basically just step into it and you're off.
Yeah, step into a harness. Super fun. They also, I'm not going to spoil every element of this tour because there are some fun surprises that I think if you go on this one, you should experience. But I will say that they do zipline karaoke, which we were all like, oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to sing on the way down. But lo and behold, all of us picked a song and busted it out as we were zipping through the canopy, and it was really fun. So if you're a beginner, don't be nervous. This one's for you. Go watch our YouTube short, our Instagram reel, our Facebook reel. If there's a short form video, like a vertical short form video out there on this one, it's on our channel. And if you want to look this up on the Shore Excursions group, it's called the Zipline Adventure Park. And you can easily just search it there or plug in your cruise dates. And if it's available on your Alaska cruise, it's going to pop up. So I don't know. I got to say that was a blast, though. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Fun. It was a good crew. Great course.
Yeah.
Great. It was good.
And I feel that $199 per person for Alaska for something like that is actually a very fair price.
Yeah, I'd say so. For Alaska.
For Alaska. So that was excursion number. I'm going in order of the cruise here too, guys. Like we're going in the order that most of us visit Southeast Alaska, right? Usually we go to Ketchikan, then we maybe have a glacier day, then we go to Juneau, Skagway, right? So we're going to go in that order. Our next port stop was in Juneau. And we decided to do what's called the Glacier Seaplane and Taku Lodge lunch. Now, I have always had a very strong fear of seaplanes, float planes, because if you have watched the news over the last 15 years about cruise passengers and seaplanes, you have most likely heard about the accidents that have occurred, most of which I believe are in like Misty Fjords National Park. And I was terrified, super scared to go on any kind of a float plane. So we opted for this one to book directly with Princess Cruises because we thought, you know, historically, truly, the safety record of these tour operators going straight through the cruise line has been a little bit stronger. And so I wanted to vet it, research it, and make sure that this company had a really good safety record. So we booked it. Again, this one's called, if you want to look at it on the Princess website, it gets 5 stars on the Princess website, and it's called the Taku Lodge Feast and 5 Glacier Seaplane Discovery. This tour costs $339 per adult. If you have a kid, it might be a little bit less. But this one is also a 3.5 hour total tour. And you get off of your ship and you walk over to one of the float plane outlets. In our case, it was Wings. Wings was the operator. And we checked in at the office and immediately boarded a float plane and had no idea what was in store. First of all, when you get on the float plane, you immediately notice that every seat is a window seat. So they have like 5 seats on each side? I think it holds 10 total people, right?
Sounds right.
Sounds right. So 5 total people on each side for a total of 10 people in the plane, and everybody is up against a window. So there's no bad seats. But one of the coolest thing happened right when we boarded, and that was that the captain, the pilot, I should say, asked our son if he would like to ride co-pilot. Obviously, he wasn't going to be flying the plane, but he could sit in the co-pilot seat. And I cannot tell you guys how cool that was for our son. He was over the moon excited. So I know that, I'm sure sometimes if they see a kid, they're probably likely to let the kid sit up there. But on the way back, we did notice that there were some adults kind of jockeying for the co-pilot seat. But you get on the plane, and what's going to happen is you're going to buckle in, you're going to put on some headphones, and then the plane, it's floating on a dock. It's in the water. It's going to take off from the water. And for about the next 20 to 40 minutes, you're going to go on a narrated flight over 5 glaciers. You're going to go over the Norris, the Taku, and the Hole in the Wall, and the East and West Twin Glaciers. And then you're going to land in front of the Taku Glacier Lodge, which was this landmark that was built back in 1923. And what's so incredible about this, you guys, is that this lodge is right across the river from Hole in the Wall Glacier. So you're like, wait a minute, I'm sitting in front of a glacier. I'm at this lodge. It's so remote. And you walk onto the property, and it's just this absolutely adorable little homestead type of a property where they're going to greet you and feed you a feast of salmon and coleslaw and beautiful baked apples and biscuits. And it's just so nice. And then once you're inside and you get kind of cozy indoors, in case it's cold or there's inclement weather, they're going to tell you about, the lodge's past, how things got started, the family that runs the place. And then you get to kind of just enjoy the charm of the area. You can go on a little nature walk down the coast. You can go on a nature walk back to a waterfall, which is quite close. And the whole place is kind of like, it's decked out with, old dog sleds and hunting gear, trapping gear, furs. It's just the coolest thing.
It is. And you know what I was thinking about this? It's really like, I was going to say it's like 3 excursions in one, but then I started thinking about it more. It's like 4, maybe 5. So let me explain. The first is the flight on the float plane. It's crazy. It's really good. Second is the glacier viewing. And you think, well, you're seeing it from a plane, so that maybe that's not as good. But then when you land at the lodge, you're right next to one. And they say it's about 3 miles away, but it doesn't look like that. To me, it looks like 100 yards. It looks really close, but they say, oh, it's 3 miles away. It looks like it's just right up, like you could throw a rock to it. And then you get the meal. So I kind of count that as another excursion, because it's great. It's an authentic meal at a lodge. Plus you get, if you're lucky like us, wildlife sighting, right? We got to see a bear. It was probably about 10 feet away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there almost the entire time.
Yes.
And then after that, we did the nature hike. We got the guided nature hike. And after that, we had enough time to take our own hike to see a waterfall.
Yeah, short, moderate, no elevation. Okay, we got to talk about the bear for a minute. So I thought the fact that there was a bear there when we got there, you guys, we arrived, and when we walked off the float plane and up the hill to the lodge, the first thing we saw were 2 workers standing with sticks. And we're like, what is going on? Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I'm listening to the story. It's a good story.
It's a good story. So we get up there and we're like, what is happening? And the guests who had been in the lodge before us were standing there around the base of a tree, and they were standing behind guys with big sticks. Like take a hockey stick and multiply the width and height of it by like 5. Okay.
Well, I'll
huge sticks.
Technically what it was is it looked like the closet dowels.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
about 6
a round
feet,
wood
7,
stick.
Yeah.
They were using it to protect their guests in the event that the bear, which we hadn't seen yet, The bear had been chased up a tree. So what happens is that...
Was he chased up there?
Yeah.
Or did he just go up
No,
there?
they said that he was chased up a tree. Now, there's a couple of different things.
Or by a dog.
Yes. Here's the deal. Now, you guys, I didn't realize this, but this is actually in the description of this tour. Here's what it says. You will be encouraged to keep on the lookout as occasionally the aroma of freshly grilled salmon attracts black bears in search of a tasty morsel. So what was happening is the bear was smelling the salmon off the grill. And there's food everywhere, right, at this camp because people live there.
And
so
they were cooking up the salmon for our meal.
Right. Yeah.
It turned out to be a brown bear, though. Right?
I thought that they said it was a black bear with cinnamon coloring. Okay. I could be wrong.
I don't know. But here's the thing. I think he works there. I do.
You think the bear
I do, yeah.
works at the Taku Lodge?
Yeah, it's a good gig for bears. And it works out for everyone because, us tourists get our photo ops, right? Bear gets a little salmon on the side, right?
So, how do you think they pay the bear?
Salmon.
Salmon on the side?
A little salmon on the side.
So he gets paid in salmon. His job is to come and equally entice, enchant, and also spook the guests.
Basically,
I love it.
Look cool.
Look cool. Regardless, guys, this bear was ginormous. Eventually, the bear came down out of the tree.
In the tree, it did not look big.
No.
But when it came down from the tree, I was surprised. In fact, I think I said, is that the same bear?
You mean the bear didn't look big in the tree?
The bear did not look...
He looked kind of cute.
Yeah.
Not like a koala bear small,
I thought
but
it was
like
a
cute.
baby bear.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cub.
Comes down out of there and you're like, everybody backed up about 50 feet when the bear came down, when you realize it's real size. Now, bear in mind, there are employees at all times making sure that you do not step anywhere near these bears. It's totally safe. And now that I know that it's in the description of the tour, which I actually find shocking.
Like I said, he works there.
He works there. Paid in salmon drippings.
Yes.
So here's the funny part. So you're having your meal and you're experiencing this very rustic lodge, and you may be sipping on some cider and having your little salmon and your coleslaw, and you look out the giant bay window of this place and you see Mr. Bear. Let's call him Enrique. You see Enrique has...
you had so much to work with.
And I chose Enrique?
And you chose Enrique.
He feels like an Enrique.
It's okay.
Feels like an Enrique to me. What were you going to go with?
Oh, I go with the standard yogi.
Okay. Enrique is up on... He is crawled up on the outdoor grill. So he has descended from the tree. And not only is he in the yard, but he is up on what looks like the grill. So you're thinking, oh my God, gross. He's like, first of all, he's going to burn himself on the grill. Ouch. Then you think, ew, the salmon is licking the grill. Kind of gross. But then what we realized after time is that the cooks actually take the grill off of the fire every time. And what the bear was doing, and this is a big part of the tour, so I feel like we have to explain this a little more. The bear was actually eating or licking the salmon drippings out of the sand that was beneath the fire pit where they were cooking it. So he wasn't licking the grill. It's not a sanitary thing. There were jokes made about that throughout the day, but regardless, it's a great tour. The food is really good. If you don't like salmon, they can also make you chicken, but this isn't like a crab feast or anything like that. It's salmon. Delicious, by the way. And I don't know, I thought it was beautiful. It was very restful as well. If you're looking for something calm, peaceful, and somewhat out of the elements as well, because, even if it's drizzling a bit during the day, the flight plane, you're going to be protected from that. And then when you get to the lodge, you really just have to walk up a hill. You're going to be indoors most of the time. So it's gentle.
What else did they have? Now I can't remember if it was salmon. What did Junior,
was salmon.
What did Junior have?
He ate the salmon. He wasn't a huge fan.
Okay, well,
but he did have it, and he wasn't that big of a fan. He only ate half. Okay, they had salmon, they had coleslaw, they had homemade beautiful biscuits, they had those cinnamony apples. And then I feel like there was one other thing that I just cannot remember. I feel like it must have been some kind of a carb, right?
Yeah, I was getting confused because we did another excursion where they just gave you chicken, period. That's it.
Chicken, coleslaw, and like a dry potato. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little while. But this one, the feast is really good. And after they serve everybody one piece of salmon to start. And then if you want more food afterwards, you can go up and they'll serve it to you. I didn't see anybody getting seconds, by the way. So I feel like it's probably, it was beans. So they had bread, beans, the apples, and the salmon and like the biscuits. And it was enough food. None of us got seconds. We were pretty full. It was like a midday thing too. So I don't know. I felt like you probably had breakfast already. You may not be super, super starving, but go with an appetite because it is lovely salmon. Really high quality, beautiful. Everything's steaming hot, freshly cooked just for you. But it is the float plane is really the magical part of the day. The pilots are very friendly. The narration is fantastic on the way over. They actually play a recorded narration about all of those glaciers and the area and even a little bit of the history of the lodge. So it is nice. Now, this one does not have a weight surcharge. So if you were concerned about that, it says in the description on the Princess website, this flight has no weight surcharge. So they will ask you to verbally state your weight when you arrive at the office. That's how they decide like who's going on what plane and all of that stuff. And I think kids under 2 can go for free. And the kid price for this tour, which honestly, guys, I don't know what the kid price is, but if your kid is 12 and under, they're going to pay less than the $339.95 that this tour costs. I don't remember if I stated before what the price was, but the seaplane adventure is phenomenal. I am now extremely excited about seaplanes. I think I'm still a little bit nervous to take some of those flight seeing adventures over to Misty Fjords in Ketchikan, but this one in Juneau was 10 out of 10. Wonderful. Absolutely loved it. What did you think?
Yeah, it was great. Now, I was less worried about that though, because when you hear about the accidents that have happened from time to time, you have to take into consideration how much they use their float planes there. For them, it's like, like we use our cars at home. Mm-hmm. Everywhere they go, they jump in the float planes and take off, and they, that's not even including all the tourism. So it's kind of
such an interesting point, isn't it?
Yeah. So I wasn't super worried about it.
So the last port that we visited this time was Skagway, Alaska. And we had in the past done the White Pass Rail, which I still believe everyone should do once in their life. The White Pass Rail is beautiful, but we wanted to do something different. So we booked a tour through Shore Excursions Group. Again, there are photos of this one up on my Instagram and Facebook pages. This one, if you're looking, is called the Yukon Klondike Adventure by Bus, Puppy Camp and Lunch. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, puppy camp? What? My son will love that. How cool is that? And plus, I've always wanted to go to the Yukon, go into Canada, keep going on the Klondike Highway a little bit farther than the White Pass Rail goes. This will be so great. So this particular tour left at 9:30 a.m., much like the zipline adventure. When we arrived at the pickup point, which was right by our cruise ship, basically, we got into a very small bus. The bus would hold a maximum of 24 people, and there were only 12 of us. Lovely, small group. That's the thing I love about Shore Excursions Group is it's like extremely small groups. Whereas whenever you book with a cruise line, you're going to be meeting in the theater with literally thousands of other people, and it's going to feel a little bit like a cattle call. Even if there's only 5 people on your tour, which in our case was the case, getting you off the ship and getting you to that tour, it's going to feel different rather than walking off on your own and doing your own thing. There's pros and cons, but let's talk about the Yukon Klondike adventure. And For this one, I had no idea that it was going to be as long as it was. When we first arrived, the friendly guide, he's kind of a sarcastic young man, super funny though. He's like, okay, we're going to be back in about 6 hours. It's a long day. And I was thinking we were going to be back in like 3.5 or 4. So first we looked at each other, we're like, oh boy, I hope this is going to be good. No idea. We had no idea. I literally thought it was 4 hours. I probably just didn't read right, but it kind of makes sense because it really takes you about 2 hours to get up into the Yukon territory fully, and then you're going to stop for lunch, and then you're going to get back down, right? So like once you do all these stops, you're going to be needing that time. So
the guide was fantastic. Before we get too far away from that, it was definitely my type of humor, and I have to say, having had this type of humor my entire life, I know not everyone gets it, but I loved it. He was great.
He was super. He was only 24 years old, and this guy was responsible for driving 12 people around, first of all, which is very impressive. A very strong outdoor background, and the sarcastic humor was actually really funny. It was a little bit of self-deprecating sarcasm as well, but we really enjoyed it. We thought it was great.
For me, he was very relatable because he's right up my alley with the jack of all trades thing.
Oh yeah.
Because every time you turned around, he was telling you that, he did a different job. And that's kind of the way I've lived my life. If you talk about something, I've probably done a job like that. And he was telling us that he was a tour driver, a diesel mechanic, he was
a sailboat captain or
sailboat. I mean, and it just went on and on.
But you believed him, right? You're like, I believe you have. He's 24 years old.
And a part-time adventurer.
Some of the things
he was telling was just very
amazing. But nonetheless, we got a little bit up into the highway and we started making all these stops. I was like, okay, let's stop and look at this waterfall. And what kept happening is these stops just got more and more interesting. And he told us that was going to happen. He's like, oh, this waterfall is cool, but just wait until we get to this next place, right? So first of all, you drive all the way to the Canadian border. That in and of itself is cool. You leave the rainforest and go into what feels like a tundra. So you get so high up in elevation, over 3,000 feet, that the trees stop growing. And you have like these little skinny trees, and it basically turns into almost like a high desert. And then you cross over into the Canadian territory, cross the Canadian border, and the Canadian customs guy or border agent actually comes on and checks your passport so you can move into Canadian territory. And along the way, you're seeing just the most incredible things. So some of the things that we saw, and again, I don't want to spoil this for you guys because I did not know what we were in for, but this was unreal. First of all, Emerald Lake is unreal. It lives
up to the name.
It lives up to the name. There's calcium carbonate, to say that, in the lake, making it turn this very Caribbean shade of blue, but with, surrounded by pines. Absolutely beautiful. But what we didn't know was going to happen is that we were going to encounter an entire place called the Carcross Desert, it looks like an entire sand dune ATV park.
I shouldn't spoil it.
I know I don't want to spoil it because we didn't see this coming.
We had no idea.
Sand
dunes. So the impact was huge because we're like, wait, what? What is going on over there?
Yeah. Sand dunes, you guys.
Yeah.
Full on. Like if you're the kind of person who does motorcycling or ATVing in the desert, this is where you go, like Glamis, California, with your recreational vehicles. There were none of those there. This is probably some kind of protected preserve.
Most likely.
Phenomenal. 20 minutes later, keep driving, and we are literally in the snow.
Yeah, having a snowball fight.
Got out of the van, and we're having a snowball fight. This was epic. Our son was, you think a kid on a 6-hour bus tour is pulling his hair out, and yeah, he sat there looking at his phone a little bit here and there. But I got to tell you guys, seeing him get out and play in that snow, it was incredible. You get out and stand in front of the Welcome to the Yukon sign, and then when you're coming back down the hill, you get out and stand in front of the Welcome to Alaska sign, and you're like, how much ground did I cover today? Absolutely epic. You stop at a lunch place. I was not super impressed with it. It was kind of felt like a cafeteria. Like you get there, they give you a sticker that says you paid for it. They slap a little piece of chicken on your plate, a little bit of coleslaw. and a little wimpy potato, and then you have to go find like a bench seat to eat. And I just would have liked to have seen the lunch be a little bit nicer.
So let's when we wrap up this part of it, we can talk about that more.
Yeah.
But I'll say there you meet up with a lot of other tourists there, buses. There's a whole bunch of buses, so it's not just your people.
Oh.
And I didn't know that was going to happen. So we kind of run into the full crowd scene. But the food was really good, and it was, you know, kind of a lodgy kind of fun area. But let's save that for last, because I want to talk about if you were to compare this to White Pass, because I kind of inadvertently came up with this comparison later after the tour was over. So we have done both now. And I was walking, you know, down below on the ship, and I saw a map of the White Pass Railroad tour. And I was picking out all the places we had gone on this tour. And the amazing thing to me is that when we took the White Pass, it was just a train ride. I didn't think about all the places we were passing and all the, you know, the areas we were going through and in the history and things like that.
Yeah.
But you get all that on this bus tour. To, you know,
and you get to stop and get out. Right.
And so, I mean, I think you have to do both. But having done both now, I think the impact of this one was so much more on me.
It was for me too. With that said, the White Pass Rail is an amazing experience.
Absolutely.
It's different though. So you said you wanted to talk about the difference between the two, right? Yeah. So we went on the White Pass Rail that takes you to the summit. So it's a 3-hour round trip. That was the train, right? And you get on the train, you go to the summit, you do not get off the train, and you turn around and you come back. There's no passport control. You might have passed into Canada a wee bit, but there's no passport control and there's no photo stops. But the whole thing is like scenic wonderland.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable to be on the train, okay? You can still take photos and video, and the narration is incredible. And it is the gold rush history experience and the feeling you get for what happened, truly. All the lives that were lost and all the sacrifices that were made during the gold rush comes through to you on the White Pass Rail. But if you've done the White Pass Rail and you're up for a change and you want to take it a little deeper, the going by small bus is phenomenal. I would, however, recommend you guys, if you can, avoid the really big bus tours. Avoid the ones booked through your cruise line. We were seeing the big, I don't even want to name the cruise line, but the big giant motor coaches full of probably at least 80 people. We would go to a stop, and our 12 who were booked on the Shore Excursions Group site bus would jump out, and we'd do our photo stop in about 5 minutes and be back on the bus before all of those people could even get off of their bus. So just keep that in mind. You do have alternatives. There's nothing wrong with booking through your cruise line, but they are motor coaches, and you have a smaller bus alternative here. But comparatively speaking, yeah, you're going to see more and you're going to stop. Like you get to go to the lunch place when you're on the Yukon bus tour. You get to go to lunch, albeit it does feel like a cafeteria. There are like 10 cruise line motor coaches there, and those people are all flooding into the same lunch place. The only issue I had with this tour, you guys, is that the puppy camp part of it being in the name is a little bit misleading, because we were expecting the puppy camp to be a central part of the tour. And the way that it worked is that once you got to the lunch location, you had the lunch place, and then joined to it, you had a museum, you had like a petting zoo, and you had a doggy sled camp, but there were no puppies whatsoever.
There might have been puppies, but we didn't see
them.
And I think I don't want to sound like me personally, I'm complaining about this.
Right.
But I want people to be ready, because, and this just may be me in my, silly kind of naive way, but I was expecting.
I love this.
I was expecting like a basket of puppies. I mean, I was, how you get the whole litter of puppies and they're all cute and crawling all over each other and stuff. It's not like that. It really is just the dogs in their training environment. They're restrained, and you can look at them, but they're not like little puppies and stuff like that I kind of expected. But that's on me, because had I done the research, I would know that that's not what you're going to see.
I don't know that there was a way to research this. If you see something that says Yukon Klondike Adventure by bus, comma, puppy camp and lunch, I'm thinking the puppies should be there. Like, I for sure thought we were going to see little tiny doggies that were eventually going to go on to be sled doggies.
They were once puppies.
They may have been once puppies, but they were restrained. They were at a distance. You did not get to touch them. No one told me I was going to pet puppies, but I did think I was going to see small dogs that were young puppies. So, bottom line though, friends, the only reason we're telling you this is because if you book this tour for the puppies, you will guaranteed be disappointed.
Yeah, I think so.
I would book this tour again in a heartbeat, though, for the Yukon component, but I might not.
Forget about the puppies.
Forget about the puppies. And honestly, for me, the lunch was like meh. I mean, people were probably loving the all-you-can-eat donuts, which honestly, I had one bite of my son's, and they were the best, most delicious spiced donut I've ever had in my life. But like, it's not, to me, it's very cafeteria for that. I would prefer rustic, but also just too many people. Like hundreds and hundreds of people at a lunch is, to me, not really the Alaskan vibe. Even the salmon bakes can feel that way sometimes, but I'd even rather be at the salmon bake because there's outdoor areas you can go enjoy. With that said, there is a very cool museum at the lunch location that has scale, and I think maybe some of them are taxidermy.
They look very real.
Full-size, real models of animals. You had woolly mammoths.
I don't think it was a taxidermy
of the woolly mammoth, no. Right? But
it might have been.
I think some of the bears and some of the coyotes and types of things were probably at one point alive. But the scale of the animals was breathtaking, and it was beautiful. It was a full-scale museum. So that part of it was a pleasant surprise to me. But the animal camp, despite the fact that they had very cute alpacas, I didn't want to go to a petting zoo. That wasn't what I, was really hoping for. But I would still, 10 out of 10, say go on this tour to do the Yukon. I also forgot to tell you guys the price on this one. It is $205 per person, and it departs at 9:30 a.m. And I think that's an incredible deal for a 6-hour tour in Alaska.
Yeah, good tour. I would close at least my portion of this by saying, go say hi to the dogs, because, they want to see you. I think it makes them happy, but the high point is the museum. I think,
yeah,
even if you're like me and you're a bit museumed out, like, it's not something I really look forward to doing because I've done it so much in my life, but this was very cool. And it was, like Sherry was saying, the scale, seeing these animals close up in the scale, it's really interesting.
It was fantastic. I could have stayed in there all day. I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. And I get, again, that max 24 passenger bus, you guys, is a big difference. It's a big difference from a giant motor coach. It really feels lovely. The windows are big. There's no bathrooms in them. That is one thing you should be aware of. The other thing you need to be aware of is you must take your passport with you, because your passport will be inspected at the Canadian border. So
take your passport. Don't drink a lot of coffee before you start the tour.
Yes, right.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, you will.
Don't expect to see a basket of puppies.
No basket of puppies.
No.
Would have been nice.
It would have been nice. Now, on the bright side, when we came home, Sherry showed me some videos of puppies. So
I did
get my puppy fix.
Puppies in the Piazza here on Discovery Princess. You can see the puppies right here on Discovery Princess on the Skagway Day. In the afternoon, they bring puppies right on board.
Puppies.
Yes, real ones. So that, my friends, is an in-depth summary of our Alaska excursions from our first cruise to Alaska in 2025. Will it be our last? I don't know. It might not be. You never know. We may squeeze in another one before the season ends in October. But I cannot speak highly enough about any of these. I would so enthusiastically repeat any of them. And I really feel like the prices were excellent. Even the $339 or whatever for the seaplane, so worth it. I know that for a family of 3, that's nearly $1,000, but that's what it's like up here in Alaska. That's the you know, kind of the going rate for this kind of stuff. And I think we've had some just absolute family adventures that we'll always remember. And glad we had okay weather. It's been quite cold. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our cruise review. But yeah, good stuff. Hope y'all are booking yourselves a cruise to Alaska this year. Anything else? All good?
That is it.
All right, friends. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys so, so much. I know many of you listen on the commute and you tell me about that, and I love to hear it. Thank you for your loyalty. It means a lot to us that you would be willing to listen to us for 30, 40 minutes in your car, in your earbuds. Mr. CruiseTipsTV, was this a long one?
45.
45 minutes. Well, I hope that we have given you some company on your commute, and we want to thank you so much for your loyalty and friendship. Until next time, we'll see you on the high seas.
Thanks for listening to Cruise Tips TV Unplugged. If you like our show and want to know more, check us out at CruiseTipsTV.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram by searching Cruise Tips TV. We'd love if you'd leave us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast, subscribe to the show, and tune in next week. Until next time, we'll see you on the high seas.